Hey guys, this is Paul with Patriot Fly Fishing in Salt Lake City. Um, did our first video yesterday talking about our hot fly page and what's been working for us on the Provo River. Had a few people contact me through the website asking how to tie the 20-incher stonefly. Um, there are a bunch of good videos out, but I figured I would show you how we do ours. So here we go. You'll have to excuse my camera angle and hand right there. I'll try to keep it out of the way as much as possible. So start with a 3x long jig hook. There are a few companies making longer jig hooks. If you don't want to tie it on a jig hook, that's perfectly fine. That's just how we do ours usually. But the Fulling Mill hooks are good. Mustad makes a decent longer jig hook. So any of those guys will work. We usually do them in a size 10 and use an 1/8 or a 5/32 bead. This is a 5/32, and we are going to put about 10 wraps or so of 25 thousandths lead on there. For thread, I usually use on these bigger flies the UTC 140. Olive, brown, doesn't really matter. It's just more of a preferential thing. So here we go. So a lot of people on smaller flies will crimp the wire, stuff it up into the bead. You can do that. On this fly I don't because I glue it down. So I'm going to start my thread back here. Build up a little thread dam just to kind of taper up into the lead there. I'm going to bring it just up and over the lead a little bit, and I tie commercially, so sometimes I have a tendency to speed up things, and it's probably not going to be to your benefit, but I will make a mental note and try to slow down a little bit. So we've got all that on there. Then I'm going to just take a little bit of brushable super glue. The Loctite is probably my favorite, but I'm out of it right now, so I'm going to use the Gorilla. It's a little thicker than I like, but it'll work just fine. So a little bit of super glue just to keep everything from spinning on your hook shank. Wrap your thread through it, and now we're going to come back here. Now here is a very important step. You want to cord up your thread, so spin it clockwise, and you're going to want to just make a teeny little ball right here. Some people will use dubbing. I don't, just because it takes too long for my needs. And then need some brown goose spots. They don't have to be brown. We use gold sometimes on our own. I've even used the sulfur orange ones, and they work just fine. I don't really think the fish get too hung up on it, but brown is the traditional one, so that's what we're going to go with. The length doesn't really matter. Just make them look good. Make it look proportionate to the rest of the fly. One thing I will say is when you're picking the biots for these guys, try not to choose ones that are super wide and fat. If you see what I'm working off right here, you can see kind of how thin they are, and they all taper in the package, so I usually try to use the thinner ones. I think that they just look better. It's by no means a must. Like I said, I think it looks better. So I'm going to tie those guys in. And the reason we did that little ball right there, if this wouldn't get caught in my super glue here, is so when we wrap to the back, it splays them out. So now you can see they've kind of splayed out. And that's kind of what you want. And as we put everything else on, you'll see that they will kind of they'll close up a little bit. They won't be super wide and look gaudy. So next step we are going to take some, this is a size 10, so I use the medium wire. I use the medium wire on 10s and 8s, 10s and 12s. If I go any smaller, I'll use the brassy size. I just use same color to match the bead, and I'm going to tie it in on the near side here. And here's a step that I do. You don't have to do it, but stoneflies have a flatter profile. So I just kind of go through and just flatten everything out a little bit. Just gives it that the silhouette of a stonefly. So now we're going to put in our peacock herl. There's two things you can do. You can go with just the Wapsi strung peacock herl in the bag, or you can take it off of the eyes and use this stuff. This is what I prefer. It looks better to fishermen. I think it catches more fishermen than fish, as they say. Does it really matter to the fish? No, I don't think so. I fish them both ways and it seems to work fine either way. So I'm going to take 6 or so of the strands of herl, and I'm going to kind of line them up. And what I do is I come in, and you're going to only use these things one time, so don't get too hung up on trying to save them. You're going to use these one time and throw the remains away. So cut off the tips because that's where they're most brittle. And then we're going to tie this guy in right here. I just tie him in about where the lead starts to taper, just like that. And now we're going to come up here and just throw a little half hitch in there just to hold it tight. And now we're going to wrap them. If you don't have a rotary vise, then you can just spin these by hand. This is just, I have a rotary vise, so this is the way I prefer to do it. And what you want to do is just kind of go slow and make sure that they're not laying on each other, they're not laying flat. You want them to have that bushy effect. It's not going to matter if it doesn't look exactly, if you can see the quill inside there. It's not going to really matter to the fish that much. It just looks better if you can have them where all the bushy part of it is standing vertical. So if you go slow, you can make sure that you do that. And what we're going to do for proportions is about half of the body. So we'll call that about half of the body. Keep in mind the beads on there, so if you go a little short, it's not going to matter to the fish or anything else. So we've got the herl on there, and you can throw a half hitch in right here or even a whip finish. What I do, just for production's sake, is I just make some wraps like I just did and then work my way back up to the bead. And then as you wrap, it'll unwind on you. So, alright, so now we're going to counter ribbit with the wire. Just work your way up. Like I said, I like using the medium. It makes a more pronounced shape to the fly. Gives it that segmented look. And just tie that down, helicopter the wire off. Now we're going to tie in everything else. So on ours, we do the opal tinsel, the medium. just for a little bit of flash, and we're going to come about to like that halfway point, just like I said. And then we're going to add in our thin skin. What we use is the mottled yellow stone, or golden stone. It's a mottled yellow. I want to cut it about as wide as the bead. If it's a little wider, that's okay. If it's a little narrower, that's fine too. But about the width of the bead is what you want it. And we're just going to tie that guy in. You'll have to excuse my dirty hands. I work with my hands in my real job, and so they get kind of nasty. And so we've got all that tied in. Now we're going to go on to the wings, or legs, excuse me. What we use on ours, we used to use partridge just like the original, but we are huge fans of the whiting, the Brahma hen. That's been our favorite lately. Buy this stuff from Fly Fish Food here in Utah. They have the best selection of hackle, all that stuff. So we're going to use the mottled golden straw is the color. And I've got a bunch pre-made. Like I said, I tie these commercially, so I always have them ready. So I'm going to have it just like that. And then I'm just going to cut this off, so I've got a little triangle. And I'm going to leave this stuff in here, the fibers right here. I'm going to leave their excess. It just adds to the strength of it. So I'm going to tie that in, just like that. Try to keep it as even as possible up there. Again, we're going to keep it at about that halfway point. Tie that in so it's not going to move. Now we have to dub the thorax. You can use squirrel right here. You can use anything you want, really, that has kind of a buggy look to it. The SLF spiky dub looks good, but we make our own hare's mask dubbing, and it's better than anything you can buy as far as that goes. We just buy the hare's masks and shave them down, and that's what we use. Now you're going to want to make a pretty long dubbing loop for this guy. You want it to be really thick, because you're gonna brush it out and give the fly some excuse me, some life, some movement. So dub it on, make a pretty long noodle, and we're just going to, I know that's getting close to the camera, sorry, that's probably annoying. Like I said in our first video, we're still working out all the kinks with our lighting, and I'm still learning everything with my new camera, so just bear with us. I promise you the videos will only get better. So tie that guy in. Like I said, I'm going to make this guy pretty thick. Now, something that we do just for production's sake is we come in here right by the bead and build this up. And what that does is when we fold over our legs, just like this, and you go to tie them in, that thread isn't going to suck down in the bead. Like if you don't have enough dubbing built up right there, it basically will it'll pull this feather in down, and so the legs just instantly stand up. So build up a little bulk right there. Keep your stem on there for right now. I'll show you why in just a second. So keep that stem on there, because what we're going to do is we're going to come in. You can use super glue. You can use head cement if you want to. It's not really the best glue, but you can use, our favorite is the Loon Clear UV Thin. and just put a little bit over the legs here. And we're just going to rub it in right there along the top and just spread it out. And what that's going to do is it's going to keep those legs from, it's going to keep those legs from just rolling against the body and staying there. So when you're fishing this guy, you want these legs to add movement. When they get wet, they do fold in a little bit, but they pop right back out. So it just gives the fly some movement. If you don't put that glue on there, the legs just kind of, when they get wet, they suck into the body. And at that point, it really doesn't do anything. You'd be better off just putting the dubbing on there and leaving it alone. So now we're going to pull the wing case over just like that. We go, if you didn't see what I just did there, just to lock it in. So you go over the wing case, then we're going to pull it back and go under the wing case and do a couple wraps. And now it's locked into place. It's not going to go anywhere. So give it a pull upwards, snip it off. Now we're going to pull over the opal tinsel, and I'm cording my thread up just so I don't build a ton of bulk right here, because we're still going to add some material right there. So same thing, just like tying in the wing case, go over, over, under. I nicked it, but I didn't cut it. There we go. So now we've got all of that tied on the top there. And you don't need to tie anything off yet. I'll show you why. We're going to add some bulk to this wing case. So I come in here with the UV, the thin, and I just kind of work it side by side or side to side to make it go all the way over the thin skin. You want it to go down into the back of the peacock herl just a little bit and get close to the bead. I'm just going to work it down. I put a little too much, but that's okay. Now we're going to zap it, the light. Now we are going to color up our thread just a little bit with some more of that hare's mask. And we're going to make a couple wraps, go over that guy just like that, just to add a little bit and cover up the wing case right there. Now, last step, we're going to cord up our thread one more time a little bit, and we're going to do a whip finish, tie this guy off. So come in there, pull it back so it doesn't build bulk around the bead. Come in and snip it off. Now, at this final step, you can take a little bit of Velcro and brush out this dubbing right here. Just gives it kind of a buggy look to it. I just use a stiff bristle brush and just kind of work some of it out, just to give it a little bit right there, make it kind of buggy. And now you have a 20-incher stonefly. I appreciate you watching this video. Wouldn't mind you hitting the thumbs up if you would. If you want to check this fly out, we do sell them at patriotflyhooks.com. If you need any materials, we would suggest that you go to Fly Fish Food. Go to store.flyfishfood.com. They are my local shop. They're good friends of mine. Great guys. They'll take care of you. But we do sell hooks and beads on our website, and we would appreciate you buying those from us. And I thank you for watching.